Welcome to Raging Bullets, a DC Comics fan podcast, episode 639. Welcome to Raging Bullets. I'm Sean Wayland, drnorge. I'm joined as always by my co-host Jim, the sensei of the whatnot, the Duke of the Sultan of Strategery, the indestructible bridge-defying, wonders why Sean was asking if he'd been using his post-hole digger recently outside of a Markovian embassy, and he's, of course, the elder statesman of the podcast, Segulin.
How's it going, eh?
Jim, on this episode, we're going to talk about Shadow War Alpha #1 and Batman #122 as we enjoy that crossover event. We are sponsored, as always, by DCB Service and InStockTrades.com. Jim, what is going on over at DCBService.com?
We have Dark Crisis #1, 40% off, only $3.59. Plus, they have 40% off on the variant covers as well. And we've got Dark Crisis Young Justice #1. 40% off, only $2.39. And we've got Black Adam #1, 40% off, only $2.39, plus 40% off on the variant cover. So thank you, DCBS.
Over at InStockTrades.com, we have our new releases. This includes Annotated Sandman Hardcover Volume 1, the 2022 edition. It's $49.99 regularly, 42% off, only $28.99. This is great for anyone who likes backstory and notes about how content was created and thought processes. These are great volumes. I highly recommend these. I already own them, but I'm glad that they're getting resolicited, and I want to shout them out. Speaking of the Sandman universe, my highest possible recommendation goes to Death, the Deluxe Edition hardcover, the 2022 edition. I have all the absolutes of the Sandmans. I did buy these deluxe editions as they've been solicited, because I like sometimes having a little bit larger than the regular comic size, but it's nice for traveling around. I like these stories that much that I own them multiple ways. And these deluxe editions are really, really nice volumes for reading them again. I know there's something wrong with me when I say that. But when you're able to get them, this is a $29.99 book regularly. It's 50% off, only $14.99. When you're able to get them at a discount, it does help when you have issues like I do to be able to get them. But these are also great for people if you have not read these. If you do not have them as part of your collection, you need to get these books. There's a reason why I've bought them multiple times. I don't do that with everything. I do it with books that are really special. These are books that are really special. It's why I'm shouting them out, because I want people to be aware that they exist if they haven't gotten them themselves. Jim, I also want to shout out, we have an exhibit that we've been shouting on in the past couple episodes, Superheroes, Orphans, and Origins, 125 years in comics. This one's taking place in the UK, and it's going to be from April 1st to August 22nd, 2022. It's at the foundlingmuseum.org.uk, and the links are in the show notes. I have a direct link to the actual event itself also in our show notes. If you're going to be in the area and you're able to see this exhibit, it is awesome. And I'm loving that museums are acknowledging just the rich comic history. I am seriously trying to figure out how I can go see this event, because this is my cup of tea, and these things only come around once in a lifetime. And I think it's really cool that this event's going to be in place. So please check it out. And if you're going to be in the area, make sure to go and see it. Jim, what kind of a podcast are we?
Raging Bullets is a spoiler podcast. We go in-depth into plot lines, story twists, and whatnot of the comics we're discussing on today's show. So if you haven't read the books, you may want to come back later so you can better enjoy the show.
Through the magic alchemy of nature's most awesome sources of energy, Ray Palmer, atomic physicist, becomes the atom.
Jim, are you caught up on Justice League?
I don't know. I'll be honest with you.
Well, 74 was the last part of the three-part storyline that's currently
No, I haven't read 74 yet.
So 74 is here, and it's the last of the three-part storyline wrapping up this Justice League. It's weird to say Justice League Dark crossover, because they've both been contained in the same book. But it's also wrapping up this current run of Justice League, because 75, as we know, is the Death of Justice League story, which is actually a prelude to Dark Crisis. So this really is kind of the end of an era. I'm not going to spoil much from the story. I just want to more reference the last 3 issues have been devoted to this kind of crossover storyline. And it's great for fans, like if you want kind of a primer on where Justice League is at right now. It's a good story. It's a good 3-issue story. Feels real epic. Feels like, hey, if they don't take care of this situation, Earth's kind of done for. Yeah. And or all of reality is kind of done for. It brings in a lot of what I love about classic DC magic, but also there's a real reason why there are certain players from the Justice League that are present and certain ones that are not. It starts to starts to place things into timological order, if that makes any sense, where you know where Justice League right now in this storyline is happening in the DC universe. So that part was really great. I really am, as we're ramping up for Dark Crisis, I find myself like scrambling to make sure I'm reading books that I think I need to be caught up on before Dark Crisis, because I want to read Dark Crisis real time. So I don't know how you approach that. For me, I start looking at things like, Justice League Incarnate. Justice League, obviously, because of the fact that 75 is coming up, I want to be caught up, and I want to just read 75 when it comes out and really embrace it. How important is it to you? Because we're talking about a crossover now that's happening in Batman. Did you have to be caught up on Deathstroke and Robin in order to... were you, and did you get caught up on that for this crossover?
Well, I reread everything, I'll be honest with you. I was caught up on Robin because it's Damian.
Sure.
I was 100% following the little monster. I absolutely loved him. But, and so I reread all of Robin. And again, I didn't. It was one of those things like I just want to redo that. So I reread 1 through 12, and reread 1 through 7 of Deathstroke. Even though I was pretty much caught up on Deathstroke as it comes out, I've been keeping up on that one. Just again, I was digging the story. I had a little bit where Deathstroke kind of was stockpiled. And then I read that through, and then after that, I just kept up with it. So, again, but I reread all of that, again, before all of this. So going into it, I had a nice, fresh read. And like with Justice League, when I reread Infinite Frontier, reread Justice Incarnate, I'm finishing up Justice League Incarnate right now. I still have 74 to read on Justice League itself. But I'll be honest, I'm probably going to go back. And this is something I've been doing lately. I've been going back to the beginning of the beginning of a story arc, and rereading that story arc when that story arc finishes. And I'm not doing it with every title, but with some stuff I have been. And if it's for me, like with this whole Shadow War thing, that's kind of why I did it.
Yeah.
Plus, I was enjoying it so much. First, I'm going to read it again. I need a reason to read it again, and it will be this. With Shadow War again, but with the whole Justice League thing, that's why I'm going back and rereading all that stuff, so it's all fresh in my brain. There's a lot of other things I probably could read that I'm not doing. I could go back and reread Death Metal. I could go read all the Metal series, and those are just too big, to just reread those before the Dark Crisis event. But it's, with some events I get ready like that. Some I go right into it. I'm like, let's just dive into this and see where it goes. I find, like with the Superman stuff, I'm rereading prior issues of his, I'm talking Action Comics. I'm rereading the Action Comics stuff. And I've gone back, to the beginning of this whole, when Clark went there, and it's kind of a neat reading, experience I'm doing. I'm finding that, if I wake up a little bit earlier, I can read a couple books before I had that, I read one book before, then one book after. Well, I started changing that to I read a couple books before and a couple books after work. So I'm reading more every single day now. But what I'm doing is I'm picking a topic. This past week it was the Shadow War topic. So I went back and as I said, reread Deathstroke, reread Robin, read the Shadow War, read Batman 122, and had those all kind of just, so I have a nice fresh read through. And I think I'm kind of enjoying the reads that way a little bit better.
But you're doing this for enjoyment. I mean, it purely is. I mean, which I'm only referencing that because I'm like sitting here, I'm like, I think I do that too, but it's interesting your approach. And it's funny, you were kind of addressing with Matt when you were talking about Metal and having a desire to go back to read that, because I also have a desire to go back and read that one. It is an issue of, wow, time is a factor.
Yeah.
And I love that. I actually, with arcs in particular, and you're right, I found myself doing it with the current Justice League arc as well. It was nice just to go back and reread it. I found that I enjoyed the story more because of the fact that I wasn't like, okay, what happened in the first part of this? And it was nice to just kind of go through and read that one. I also liked the idea that this arc in particular took what was the main feature and the co-feature, and they're merged. Where, which I think is a nice way to bookend what I think has been a great run on Justice League by bringing both teams together, because the other team's supposed to be in the basement. So it'd be kind of nice if every so often they come out of the basement and work together on something. So I really liked that that was done for this particular series, just because it was kind of a good way to end. Hey,
I'm one of those guys who wants to see a Justice League Dark continue. And I know you probably are as well.
I think a lot of people are like that. I mean, it's been one of those, I think one of the reasons why it got a new life in Justice League was because I think there is a fan base that really enjoys Justice League Dark. I'm hoping, here's what we don't know. Dark Crisis is the great unknown, right? What is not the event itself, but what comes afterwards. Because we know that the event is going to have certain characters missing because of the fact that they're going to be dead based on what's coming. So, as we take a look at that, it's going to be interesting to see what Dark Crisis looks like. But then afterwards, what is the resolution of Dark Crisis going to be? And what does that mean for the DC universe as a whole? So it's really an interesting time as a DC fan. And I like this sense of change. I'm ready for a shakeup, if that makes any sense at all. I feel like the line needs it. And I say that as a fan of the line. I've been enjoying greatly what I'm reading, but I think we're at a stage where I want to see noise. And what I mean by that is I want to see something where people are talking about DC Comics. Hopefully without the snark. It's hopefully with a sense of, hey, I want to try that. I don't care if it's the entire line or not. It's just some people maybe that, hey, they're doing a cool concept over here, or hey, they're trying this type of thing. I'm hoping these are some things that I'm kind of confident in some of the writers that they've got there, that there is a plan in place. Because, especially when you got like Joshua Williamson helming Dark Crisis, right? Well, his run on The Flash says a lot about the ability to plan multiple years on a line, or, especially the Flash books. Where we got to see multiple arcs that built on each other and they have a plan. So I'm confident with Joshua Williamson being one of the players in this, that there is a plan in place that is opening up some doors for DC in the next few years to have some exciting things going on. I want some cool serialized storytelling, and I'm happy to see where this whole thing's going to go. He's also really good at bringing in the new while at the same time giving the right bits of nostalgia. And I think that's a tricky balance to achieve, because you don't want to go so incredibly new that you're deliberately throwing out, because I think this never works. You deliberately are throwing out the window any reference to anything that has come before. I think that's when you alienate fans, long-time fans that have a long investment. It's the tricky balance of being able to make something that feels new, fresh, and exciting, that's going to bring people to the properties that maybe haven't been reading them before or haven't read them in a long time, and at the same time giving the right nostalgia bits for the people that either have been around all this time or maybe stepped away because they felt like, I got no connection to this universe anymore. I really have a lot of confidence in, it's strange to say with the death of Justice League coming, that I have confidence there's going to be the right amount of nostalgia bits, but I think there's going to be because of the writer at the helm. So Dark Crisis has me really excited. There is in the DC Connect that's out now, there's a wraparound cover for the first issue of Dark Crisis, and it has all the alternate covers. But that wraparound cover, when you're sitting there and looking at it, wow, there's a lot of really cool players that are involved in Dark Crisis that, at least from the cover, it's the right mix of our newer characters that we're seeing taking the forefront and a lot of classic characters that are going to be involved in this event. So I'm very excited to see where Dark Crisis goes and what it means for the DC universe. But I'm kind of doing what you're doing. I'm kind of bobbing and weaving and trying to make sure that I'm prioritizing my reading to things that I need to get caught up on or things that I want to reread in preparation for Dark Crisis. And it's going to be an interesting time to see what comes up from DC. Hey, did you see, I know you read some of these young adult adaptations, or not adaptations, the originals that have been coming out. Like me, I know you don't read all of them. I've been getting more than I've been able to get to. One of them that I haven't gotten to, You Brought Me the Ocean. That's the Aqualad story. It's being adapted to an HBO Max kind of property. They're going to bring it to TV, and it was just on our Facebook group, and I really appreciate Jared for posting it over there and just making us aware of it. Did you read that? I guess is my first question.
I didn't. I missed that one. Okay. And yeah, that is cool that they're adapting those things, because those are those stories that when I read them, I really enjoy them. But I don't see them all the time, and I don't get them all the time, and it's one of those things where I'm like, I can miss it, But yeah, that's kind of neat, because those are good stories, and it's 100% not written for me, but yes, I still get enjoyment out of those.
And a lot of times they embrace the idea of they're not in continuity, so they will take elements of what we know from continuity and make them current, if that makes any sense. I know it's kind of a strange thing to say, but make them maybe more accessible to a larger audience. I've liked everything that I've read so far, understanding what they're trying to do and really enjoying them. This one I have not read either, so I'm actually really curious to read it just to see. I want to read it before actually the event comes onto HBO Max, because I would like to have like my own like take on what that looks like in print form, because we know TV adaptations, they're not usually like a scene by scene shot. There's usually some changes or modifications, and rightfully so, for the different medium. So I'm curious to see what this one looks like. But that's something. Does that push you to read it, or are you just kind of like what? How will you approach that? Is that one of those where you've got to read it before you see it on TV, or are you like, I'm content to see it on TV, or is this one where you're like, if I get time, I'll watch it on TV, and if I don't, so be it? Like, where does this fall for you? Because for me, I'm excited to watch it because I like the idea of more Aquaman-related properties being brought on HBO Max. And so far, the stuff they've been putting on HBO Max, all of the adaptations, including the really cool DMZ, have been ones that I've been really enjoying. Until they have a miss for me, I'm going to jump to them. And so far they haven't. But where does this fall on a level? You might approach this differently. Where does this fall on a level of excitement for you?
One, I am not going to rush out and buy the book. I'm going to actually wait till I actually watch it. Then if I really watch and I really like it, then I'm like, okay, now I got to see how it's different. And then I would do the book. And that's how I probably do it.
Okay.
First thing I place is I'm going to check is the Infinite app, because that's what I'm doing with a lot of this stuff. I'm like, oh, that's kind of neat. Let me check that out. I'm checking that first before I buy it now, because I'm like, I'm paying for that service. Let me use it. So I check there first to see if they have it. But the other thing, like with finding time to watch it, I'm going to do my Sean scale. So based on how excited you are after watching it is where I'm going to then make the time to watch it. It's on the list of things to watch, but my list of things to watch is very extreme. It's like how much you were talking about, you raved about Peacemaker, that I made time and actually found time to watch all of Peacemaker because of just how excited you were for it. So depending on when it comes out and you watch it, if you're over the top, like, oh, that was awesome, man, then I'll probably, okay, I'm going to find time to watch it. So it's the Sean scale.
I get that, though, because truthfully, there's a lot of things that I like that are things that were enjoyable, meaning they weren't a waste of my time, but I don't feel this need to rant and rave about it. I don't feel this need to say, oh, you've got to watch this. I'll say it's good, and I like, we've got a lot of really great comic book related properties. A lot of really great sci-fi is out now. And you're right. There's a difference between something that you're like, I really passionately want you to watch this because I know you're going to dig it and really enjoy it. And it was good. When you get to it, you get to it. You know, and there's a difference between that. Like Peacemaker was one after watching, I'm like, Jim's going to really dig this one. He's got to watch this. And there's a difference. There is a huge difference between that priority-wise.
Yeah. Hey, with DMZ, how weird would you say it is? Because that's the big issue I have with, you know, because whether I watch it on my computer or whether I watch it downstairs. Because if I'm watching downstairs, Dad's going to join me. And the weird shows, you know, he tolerates them because, you know, he's like, okay, I'll sit through it, but he doesn't enjoy it, you know. So if it's super weird, he won't enjoy it. So I don't try to torture him.
This is one that's an easy one to. You've read DMZ.
Yeah, I've read DMZ.
It's DMZ.
Okay, so they didn't.
No. And let me be clear on that. There's a lot of original content in this. I'm saying you're not going to like sit there and go, wow, this is like some really wacky show that. So if your dad would like DMZ, he will like this. It is. I'm not going to say, you know, you're not going to like go, wow, that's page for page what I read in the graphic novels. It's not. It's a story set in the DMZ world. What they've done originally in it is really, really good. So for somebody like you who's a big fan of the DMZ, I guess what you're going to know about your dad is, do you think your dad would like DMZ? Okay. And if you think your dad would like DMZ, he's going to enjoy this. If you don't think your dad would like DMZ, then you're going to want to watch it on your computer. And I'm trying. It's basically that easy. You know your dad better than I do as far as that end goes, and you know DMZ. So that's kind of an easy one to go for you. If you like the DMZ comic, it really is, tone-wise and presentation-wise, it is a great story set in the DMZ world. At least, I haven't watched all of it yet, but I've watched the first couple episodes and really enjoyed it. So, but it's very much DMZ.
Cool. Yeah, I'll be honest, I think that they like it. Yeah, because he digs Snowpiercer, which surprised me. I thought he'd find Snowpiercer too weird. You know, and he didn't. He liked that. So we watched that. So I'm thinking he may dig DMZ.
I actually, it's interesting. I would have never connected Snowpiercer with DMZ, but I would definitely say it's a lot more. You know, I would say somebody who likes Snowpiercer, because I love Snowpiercer. I think somebody who loves Snowpiercer would really enjoy DMZ as well. I think that they're a lot more closely linked in, I think, like tone and presentation, if that makes sense. Yeah. So, yeah, I would. That's interesting. Until you said Snowpiercer, I wouldn't have connected the two. Do you look at DC Connect at all? That DC previews that comes out?
Not really.
I've been the past couple months. These are the June solicitations, and the only reason why I've been looking at them is especially with Dark Crisis coming up. There's a lot of miniseries coming out. And new series coming out, like the new Black Adam series by Christopher Priest, Flashpoint Beyond. I completely forgot this was a thing, but I'm super excited for it. This is Jeff Johns. He's going to be writing new Flashpoint. And I loved the Flashpoint world. And there's a new Nubia miniseries coming out in June. Nubia, Queen of the Amazons is going to be a 4-issue miniseries. I'm super excited for that. G. Willow Wilson, who I adore. Remember that great series Air? I mean, I'm underselling G. Willow Wilson by the amount of talented work. But there is a 6-issue Poison Ivy miniseries coming out from G. Willow Wilson. That is going to be on the radar. So there's some cool things coming. We're going to be getting a new Tim Drake special. We're getting a multiversity book called Teen Justice, which is future versions of basically future versions of the Teen Titans from, the whole multiversity line, which looks super cool. There's just a lot of really neat stuff on the horizon. We're going to actually get a Aquaman and the Flash Void Song miniseries that's coming out. It's going to be a 3-issue miniseries. So there's a lot of things that are coming down the pipe that have me really excited. And actually, this is one, I don't know if it was moved. I saw the previews before for it. There's that one-shot Milestones in History which it's from the Milestone line. I was looking forward to this one, and I don't know what happened to it. I don't know if it just got delayed because it's a 96-page one-shot, so it's a big tome that's going to be coming out, and I like these when there's something of substance. If it wasn't ready, I'm glad that they waited. I thought this was supposed to have been out already, and I've been looking for it, and I was so glad to see that it looks like it's going to be solicited in June, so I wanted to shout that one out as being something I'm excited for. And by that time, we'll be on the second issue of Blood Syndicate, which I've been enjoying the Milestone launches, and I'm really excited for Blood Syndicate because I have not read Blood Syndicate. I did the old, original series. So the idea of being able to be on the ground floor of this season 2. Have you read any Blood Syndicate? I know you've been going back like I have. I've been going back and reading some of the older Milestone, but I have not gotten to Blood Syndicate yet. Have you gotten to any of that?
I haven't gotten to it yet. The way I'm handling the Milestone is I'm waiting for the new version to come out, and then I'm going into the old version.
Okay.
So, like right now, I'm going through all the stuff that is currently out. I'm going through and rereading some of the older stuff, and just again, it's partly a comparison, but also just want to see. I don't want to ruin anything on the new stuff.
Yeah.
By knowing back, I want to go into the new stuff fresh and completely empty, and see what this version is. Then I'll read the older stuff and the original stuff and say, okay, let's see how these compare up and how it's kind of like, and again, I'm not even saying how it compares up. I just want to see, because I like the characters. I know I've read so many versions of Superman, so many versions of Batman. I want to read other versions of these Milestone characters. So I say compare, but I'm not really even comparing. I'm not saying, I like this version better. It's just, I want more of it, and so I'm waiting until I read the current stuff, get a couple issues into Blood Syndicate, and then I'll start going back. And again, the Infinite app, I love it. I'm loving that thing for this stuff. I'm not, it makes it nice and easy to find it and read it and whatnot.
Yeah, it's funny. I'm with you. I'm using the Infinite app a lot more as far as searching for things there first, adding series, like classic series, and just kind of having them at ready. One of the things that I've started doing now that has really helped me is downloading. So that way it's available offline. So if I'm on like a road trip, a lot of times we'll like go and visit the in-laws. Well, that's a 45-minute drive, and my wife usually drives. So for me, I can usually get like 2 or 3 comics in between, to and from, and really enjoy it. So I have like a stash of stuff from DC Infinite that's downloaded to my iPad that's ready to go. And they're usually things that I've always wanted to get to, but never have. Like, classic Batman, classic Aquaman. Like there's a period of Aquaman stories where I know they're classic stories. They predate my reading with Peter David's run. And I just want to get to reading some of that stuff because I'm a big fan of the character. So it's cool to, kind of go back and do that. I'm doing the same thing with some Flash, classic Flash.
Yeah.
So it's nice to just have that stuff there. And then, so I have like usually at least 4 or 5 different series that are downloaded where I've got like 3 or 4 issues downloaded. And then based on my mood, I just grab what's there and start reading it. And it's been a lot of fun because I don't really walk in with a plan. It's totally based on what I'm feeling at the time. And there's something freeing about that where it's like I've got this plethora of like really cool comic content, classic comic content waiting for me. And I'm just enjoying that. So that's been fun.
Yeah. At any given time, I have 200 issues downloaded to iZilla.
From the Infinite app.
From the Infinite app, from comics, from Amazology, from any of it. I've got, at any given time I grab this offline, I can have access to 200 issues. And it's kind of, I'm set to go.
Yeah, Comixology, Amazology, whatever you call it now. I always have my stuff downloaded from there. But the Infinite app in particular, and actually Comixology is what made me do that, because a lot of times I won't use the Infinite app because I don't have something downloaded. So I was more shouting out the fact that you can download there, just reminding people of that, because it's something I often forget. And usually I remember it when I want it already downloaded. It'd be great if it was downloaded right now and I'm driving. So it's cool to have that there. I'm trying to, like you, make sure I'm getting my money's worth out of DC Infinite, because I'm glad I have the service. I do have this need to own that drives me a lot of times. Like when I start reading a story arc, especially when I get like one issue in, I'm like, I really like this. I want to own it.
Yeah. And
it's funny. I want to own it digitally the same way that I want to own paper, like for my collection. I don't know what, I'm afraid that DC Infinite's going to go away, and that I won't have access to these books, or that they're going to pull back some of the availability of product, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But Marvel's had their Unlimited. Their service has been around for years before DC went this route. So, there's a proven sustainability of these platforms, I think, in what Marvel's done. And I hope that we see that with that service. I'm very protective on ownership, even in the case of Comixology, which in the same ways could fold tomorrow. And then I wonder what happens with those books. I know there's certain books that I have on there that I can download and keep. It's usually the big publishers. You can't. That's where that sense of ownership is an interesting one. That's a piece.
Yes, it is. And like with Shadow War Alpha here, I've got it only on digitally. I don't have it. I didn't buy paper and digital. Mm-hmm. But with Batman 122 that we're talking about today, I've got a paper version of that as well as the digital version of it. So I'm still doing the double dipping on both of the stuff. But what I'll do is when Shadow becomes a collected, that's when I'll have the paper version of it. Because I'm assuming this is going to get collected, just like the Dark Crisis. I'm going to have paper on that. I'm going to get the Justice League. I'm assuming that will be some type of collected edition or something. I'll probably have that in paper. So I've got my backup will be in the collected versions, and that's where I get this stuff. A lot of this is, when I see the collected, okay, pick it up. So I've got massive bookcases that I broke one. I'm trying to fix it now.
How do you organize your, so bookshelf stuff's easy, as far as organizing a bookshelf. What do you do with your single issues? Like, do you catalog them? Do you catalog them by series? Like, how do you handle those?
Okay, so I've got the drawer boxes.
Right.
And a single drawer is a single title. So and then I have my section of these are my Batmans, these are my Supermans, like that. And then I've got the other titles that are, if they don't fill up a drawer, if the series is done and they don't fill up the drawer, then I'll put multiple series in a single drawer.
Got it.
And to be honest, my comics right now are horrific order. I'm in desperate need to lay down, redo it, and just reorganize everything, because I've been in a state of disarray for like 2 years now, and it just as it builds on, it gets worse and worse and worse, and then so moving stuff around and just not reorganizing, just putting it in the corner and saying I'll get to it later. Well, that was 2 years ago where I said I'll get to it later, and so. I keep saying this is the year I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it, and I never do. So I'm kind of at a weird state with my comics right now. In a way, I'm kind of embarrassed at how disorganized my books are right now.
I'm embarrassed for you. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, you should be. I'm serious.
It's like laughing at your embarrassed. Because it's something. Really it's not something we let people see. Like it's not like so. I mean, your quote unquote disarray there. It's really funny. But I'm the same way, actually. I was joking because I'm very territorial about what it looks like. And I reorganized 6-7 years ago how I do series. So I do alphabetically organize my books by series. But then when it becomes like a Batman and it's a mini series like Shadow War, I will put like the individual crossover issues together in Batman, if that makes sense. So it'll start off with Shadow War Alpha, and it will be chronological to the series. The reason being is I found that, like, I like to go in and then pull out that arc and read it. You know, the whole mini, series or the whole, event. So I've been cataloging them by event in whatever their primary title is. So if it's like a Superman event, it goes in the Superman books. If it is a Batman event, it goes in the Batman books. Same thing with the Justice League event. Then if it's a DC event proper, like Dark Crisis, for example, that would go under Dark Crisis with any crossovers embedded in Dark Crisis, no matter what their alphabetical name is. So if it's not Dark Crisis, yada yada, but it's something else that is a tie-in or a prelude to Dark Crisis, I try to put those together. And it's tricky because sometimes, how crazy do you get? Like Shadow War, I wouldn't put like Robin and Deathstroke in front of this. As far as the issues leading up to this event, it'll start with Shadow War Alpha, and then any issues that tie in from any other series will be a part of this, if I'm making any sense.
Yeah, and like for example, using Shadow War example, I'm getting paper version of Robin. Because it's Damien, I had to. Mm-hmm. So I'm getting the paper versions. I didn't get paper of Shadow, and I didn't get paper of Deathstroke. But if I had gotten paper of all these things, the way this would work is the Robin would stay in the Robin, Deathstroke would stay in Deathstroke, Shadow would have its own category.
Got it.
And it just, I don't put those together. Just, I keep the title together. In my head, I want to categorize, I want to use the Dewey Decimal System for my comic book collection, and it would work perfectly for a comic book because you go by title. I could do by title. I could do by author. I could do by the categorized by the story arc. I could have my Shadow War story arc, and that way I could cross reference. I can do it. The Dewey Decimal System would work absolutely perfectly for a comic book collection because it's designed for a library. It's designed for this purpose, But again, I don't have any of that organizational done. But part of me like I should do that, Jim. It's on the list of things I should do for my comic book collection.
Where would you put the number? Would you put it then on the plastic?
Yeah, on the outside of the plastic.
Not on the spine.
Well, there is no room on the spine. It's like, come on. Right down the corner.
I know you pretty well. I see you there with like a microscope. Like
in my younger days, yes. I'm too old now. My eyes are too bad. I need big bold letters.
You're my one friend that would do that. And here's the thing. I'd like hear you talk about it, and I'd be like, oh, maybe I should do that.
You come visit and you see this, card catalog like you see in the library. Jim, what's that? Oh, that's for my comic books.
Yeah, I ended up my reason for changing it, and there's no right or wrong. I mean, it's funny. I enjoy talking to people about how they catalog their comic collection. For me, it's all about readability. It's interesting with you with paper now, where you're like, okay, I didn't buy Deathstroke and I didn't buy Shadow War in paper. I'm buying them digitally. But I will buy the paper collected edition, so that's my paper for that. And I do that too now in a lot of cases, where it's certain titles where I want it paper, but I'd rather have, I'm confident that this is going to come as a trade or a hardcover, and I prefer the bound version. So I'm doing that too now, where I'm getting it still, like most of my favorites, in paper and digital, but some cases I get it day and date digital and then get the collected edition when it comes out later too. In this case, with the Bat books, I typically get them all in paper. So I do have the paper version of Shadow War Alpha, so that way I can continue my story arc. And that's part of the reason why I do it, because I like to catalog them by story arc.
Yeah.
So I end up getting all the tie-ins in paper because of the fact that I want that for readability later. There's times still where, even though I really enjoy reading off my iPad, there's times where I jones to sit around and just have, a bunch of floppy single issues in front of me and be able to read those. I find that I have very much a hybrid reading experience where I'll read hardcovers and trades. I will read single issues, and I'll read it digitally. And I'm enjoying like the different experience depending on where I'm at. Strangely enough, I feel like I'm reading more paper when I'm outside. Like we'll sit on our back deck, and my wife and I will read. And for some reason, just because of sun glare and stuff like that, it's easier sometimes to read. Like I have an Amazon Kindle, which is great for reading novels. But the iPad, sometimes screen glare makes it hard to read when there's sunlight in the area. And it's really nice to have paper when I'm out. So paper still works for that in a really good way. Speaking of Shadow War, why don't we talk about Shadow War Alpha?
Look at those strange little beetles. They look... Great neutron!
Our first discussion this episode is going to be of Shadow War Alpha. Joshua Williamson is the writer. Victor Bogdanovic on pencils and inks. Danielle Henriques on inks. Mike Spicer on colors. Troy Piteri on letters. John Boy Myers on the cover. Victor Bogdanovic and Dan Mora on variant covers. Jessica Burby, the assistant editor. Paul Kaminsky is the editor. Ben Abernathy is the group editor. Batman, of course, created by Bob Kane with Bill Finger. Apologies for any name butchery. This is a series that, wow, with everything going on at DC and all eyes on Dark Crisis, this is one that I knew was coming, but it kind of snuck up on me at the same time in a really good way, because these are all the characters I love. And I love when they go to these places with DC. Anytime you can give me a story where we're getting Ra's al Ghul, Talia al Ghul, but then you're throwing in Deathstroke and the League and, League of Shadows I'm talking about, and Damian and Bruce finally having...
that moment.
Yes. Yeah, it's really, really great. So this is something... We were 2 issues in because we're going to talk about this and we're going to talk about Batman 122. Wow, was this satisfying out of the gate. And this has had a great build. I mean, everything that converged to make this Shadow War has been great. And it's coming in at a time where I really needed something like this, if it makes sense. Very exciting. I out of the gate, this was a very satisfying opening to this particular miniseries with some characters that I really wanted to see have some spotlight.
Oh, big time, big time. And I'll tell you, it's funny. This cover is absolutely brilliant. I love this cover. Just the main cover, on this one is just, again, it was one of those things where I was just looking at this thing, during my art read through, going, man, that is just outstanding work. And it's one of those things where, like, sometimes a cover really catches my attention. This one dramatically did. And then even going through like the artwork on the inside is also something I'm like, man, this is some good artwork. I love this art styling and just some of the emotional stuff that gets conveyed with Ra's al Ghul. I love when Damian and his mom are fighting, and he kind of has that kind of look on his face that he's content, his family is together, and then he starts coughing blood. Like, oh, man, no. He's having moments of peace. Maybe something good can happen. Oh, no, this is something horrific.
As we're flipping the page from the cover, because the cover's gorgeous, but I want to shout out this miniseries that's coming up, the Batman Beyond Neo Year. Yeah. Bruce Wayne is dead. Tara McGinnis has 1 year to defeat his killer. This is coming up this month, and it's Colin Kelly and Jackson Lansing is going to be doing this with art by Max Dunbar. It's funny, Batman Beyond, it's strange to say this, when it was airing, I jumped on it really late. And I don't know why, because I'm a Batman junkie. I love Batman. But it was one of those, I think because it was not Bruce, that I don't know if I just didn't jump on, or if it was at a time where I just really wasn't looking for an animated series. And I've since gone back and, many times purchased Batman Beyond. As originally on video and then TV and, DVD and then digitally. So I've owned this series multiple times because it's fantastic. I've become a huge fan. Neo Year sounds really good. And this is another one that's sneaking up on me that I'm excited I'm getting this month. What is your history with Batman Beyond? Like, is this something that excites you? Did you watch the animation when it was out? Like, I've seen it all now, including the Return of the Joker that they did, which was really cool. what did you watch all of Batman Beyond? Has it mainly been comics for you? And what is this something that excites you? I guess is really where I'm going.
Okay,
with this.
well, this isn't something that makes me go, "Oh my god, I must have this." But it's not anything that I'm like, whatever. I'm kind of lukewarm on it. My Batman Beyond is. I didn't watch it at all when it was out. I don't remember what was going on but I wasn't watching I didn't watch it, and it wasn't anything against it or anything like that. And later on, I see issues and episodes of it, and I'm like, oh, that's kind of neat. And the concept is kind of cool with Terry. And anytime there was a tie-in with Terry, I was like, oh, okay, that's kind of cool. And when I went back and was watching some of the Justice League, the animated Justice League stuff, when they tied him into that universe, I'm like, oh, okay, that's kind of cool that they're bringing, kind of tying the universes together and having moments like that. And so it's something that when the story comes out, I'll watch it and like, oh, okay, that's good. But I've never been excited and passionate about it. Yeah. So when I saw the advertisement, oh, okay, that's kind of neat. And just like there's a Beyond I think there's a Flashpoint Beyond one or something like that. There's another Batman Beyond kind of tie-in with this with another thing. I was like, oh, that's kind of neat that they're tying it in, but I'm not going, oh my God, I must get this. So
yeah, I'm super excited for it. And actually, like you, I was not a Batman Beyond junkie because the fact that for whatever reason, I did not jump on the animation when it came out. It wasn't a negative on it, I just didn't. So when you didn't have the exposure to the animation, it's hard to get excited for something that you don't have the attachment to. But it was something I always wanted, to dip my toe in. And I was one of those that, as comic adaptations originally came out of Batman Beyond, I didn't jump on those either because I'm like, I really want to go back and watch the animation. Because that's where this has all come from. It's original from the animation. I loved the Kevin Conroy stuff, and I knew it was Kevin Conroy as Batman. So as Bruce. So I'm like, wow, this is continuing, in a future version of the Batman world. I eventually watched it and fell in love. So I am very high on this, but I get where you're coming from because it's a lot like where I was at with it, where until I actually started seeing the animation and getting really behind the animation, I really didn't have an attachment for it. When I saw that, it struck me let's have a conversation about this just because Batman Beyond's an interesting sort of character that we really don't talk a lot about on the show. Other than we talked about it, there was that run where it was Tim Drake was Batman Beyond for a period of time. How that whole there was that future world where that was the case. I've enjoyed the comics a great deal, but it's a character that I'm getting into. So jumping into this storyline now, you are the greatest mind the world has ever known, and it really is Ra's al Ghul going into his head, kind of reminiscing about life, almost questioning himself, taking a look at who he is, how he sees himself now, kind of trying to come to that end statement on him. And you see he's at the end, he's an old man with nothing left to, you're looking back and going, what is my legacy? Legacy has always been a big thing that's been important to Ra's al Ghul. And as his philosophy has changed over the years, and it's changed multiple times, it's evolved, it's grown, sometimes to darker places, other times to more benevolent places, or sometimes benevolent places for the purpose of hiding what his real machinations are going to be. This was really interesting where this seems to be it. Lazarus Pit is no longer behaving for him the way that it needs to. He is, hitting the point in time where things aren't going to work anymore the way that he's expecting. I don't think at this point he's thinking he's going to die now, but he is, depending on where the storyline goes. But he is clearly, at that point where he's like, okay, what do I really want people to remember me for? His grandson has been a piece, and I really like that, where we see that a lot there's a truth to grandparents, right? Where they view their approach to their grandkids is a little different than the approach was to their own kids, because they're not the parent there. So the relationship is naturally going to be different. I don't think that's odd. I think it becomes a point of reflection as far as, okay, what do I want them to get from me? And I think there is a difference when you're visiting versus living with.
Yeah.
You're raising. When you're not that primary person in the kid's life, you're not actually the parent, you are a grandparent. It does change perspective. And I like how that is a factor in this story. We always talk about how great it is when stories at DC and Marvel and Cross Comics have this sense of larger progression. This story really gives you a sense of progression, and I love that.
Big time.
I love feeling like Ra's al Ghul has some progression in this.
One of the things about this story was neat. Again, it's this blend of humor within the action. I always love when writers can do that well, because I love how Damian, when he's fighting his mom, is like, "I am the son of the Bat." It might be more impressive if you told them you were my son. I kind of chuckled at that because, like, you know what? He's kind of is right. She is kind of right there, and he's done that where he's where he's like, "I'm the son of the Bat, the son of the demon," or however he's identified Talia. He's done that before, where he listed both his heritage. So I kind of like that. Just again, this little banter back and forth, and just the fact that they're swinging sharpened swords at each other, knowing the other would avoid the blow
and enjoying it. I mean, this for them, it is a fun
time. Yeah.
It is true sparring, where these are two people who know that they can spar, but really push it. And there is a point in stretching those athletic muscles and getting out there and feeling each other out. And the banter is part of a confidence that is there between the two of them. Because Damian, one of the things that is at times irritating about Damian is his overwhelming confidence. And sometimes using his confidence to hide other issues, the outward confidence. He will do that to mask any weaknesses that he has, and that's okay. This is interesting to see the two of them and actually seeing this kid connecting with his mother, because there have been times when he's not been able to. Feeling like this is an opportunity, where we've seen a lot in his title, right, of growth and healing, or a path to healing, shall we say. Not exactly like I'm cured from the things that ail me mentally and emotionally, but he's grown a lot as a character. This is the right time to have this story, because that progression for him feels like it's a place here. Seeing Alfred killed in front of him and that sense of weighing responsibility and all that changed this kid. I'm glad that event has had an impact on him, because it makes him feel more real, more human, if that makes sense. This is a character that, think about where he's gone since his introduction. I read an article that he was not supposed to live. Like, in Grant Morrison's original plans for Damian, this was not a character, or I don't know if it was Grant Morrison's or DC's as a whole original plan. We should not be reading Damian right now. But I think the character's popularity stayed the hand, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad, because this is a character that certainly has grown and evolved over time.
Hey, Damian dies, we riot. Flat out.
Yeah.
And he did die, to be honest, but he came back. So,
right.
He is just a great character. And, you get that sometimes. And I like when the editorial and the creative teams and all that will change the original plan and bring people back or keep people alive. It's one of the things that keeps me hoping we are going to get more stories with Alfred. Because right now, Alfred being dead is a huge impact on Damian. And I love how when he was on Lazarus Island and, in the previous stuff, how he was dealing with all that. And he still hasn't completely dealt with it, but there's been some growth. And then, the events here are kind of a step back for him, and I like seeing this progression. It does give me hope that we are going to get Alfred back again. I don't know how, I don't know when, I don't know where and whatnot. I don't know the whatnot behind it, but I know Alfred's coming back someday, and that gives me hope, because I really do want to read, the scene I want to see is Damian and Alfred. I want to see that scene, the reunion between those two so much that it's something that you keep seeing more of the little monster, and I'm like, and they call him the little monster just because of the way he was when he's first introduced. But to be honest, he is just that great character that he really isn't a monster anymore, but he does have that, that persona that he puts out, and he makes those stupid mistakes, of not trusting the right people, not being open with the right people, and you saw that when he was dealing with the Titans, when he's with his team, his version of Teen Titans, he had a little secret jail going on, and I'm like, yeah, Davey. And he didn't tell anybody about it because he knew they disapprove, so not include them, There's little stuff like that just always cracks me up about Damien. And so seeing these moments with his family, and later on in the book, seeing that one moment, that brief moment between him and Bruce when Oracle realizes Bruce is talking to Damien, she goes, "Hug your son, Bruce. Hug your son," because she knows both of them need that. And I love just that moment between the two of them.
Well, and what happens in Bruce's head, and we'll have to talk about that when we get to it, what happens in Bruce's head versus what really happens. Because there's moments where Bruce wants to do things or say things and doesn't actually say them. And it's an interesting sort of way that the story goes. Ra's al Ghul seeing his own blood and then, hearing, the Lazarus pits are cursed, my son. This idea that he's dying is setting an interesting stage. Lockup and the opening sequence with Bruce. I was ready to see some Bruce action. It was really, really cool because you knew like Batman was going to, take a stand there in those moments. And that led into, of course, the Damien sequence that you're talking about. But before that, we get to see, this is one of my suspects right now. We get to see Brian Markov, former Geoforce. I think he's the bad in this one. I think he's Deathstroke in this.
I completely agree with you on that one. 100%. And
if it's not him, it's somebody related to him. Like, it's a family member or something like that has like a direct tie, because I think this, and I could be wrong, but right now, if you were to ask my number one suspect, I think it's him, because I think this is all about revenge. Revenge on Deathstroke, which he'd have reasons to be going after Deathstroke because of what happened with his sister, too.
And here's my opinion on that is you've got, you think back to Deathstroke, and I did air quotes around Deathstroke. How did the imposter Deathstroke get there? That giant tunnel that was dug underground. Yeah. But that giant tunnel didn't set off any of the seismic alerts that Bruce and his crew had set up. So someone was able to move massive amounts of dirt without using any type of drill or seismic event or anything like that. Or someone had the ability to negate seismic energy. Wow. Who can do that? That 100% is that family. In that family, they have those powers. Now, whether he was negating the seismic energy because he's got his earth forces, or whether his sister is alive, or someone with his sister's powers is alive to physically move the earth, I don't know which one it was, but 100% this guy is the big bad. And I think he was actually wearing the Deathstroke outfit. I think he actually pulled the trigger.
I do too.
And it's, I don't know. Again, it could be someone. He could have hired somebody and could have been the support, and it could be somebody else.
Sure.
But I 100% think it's him. And even Deathstroke said when he was looking at the video, he recognized the fight style.
Oh.
So he's faced that. He's like, I recognize that style. So Deathstroke recognized the style. So he couldn't place who it is, but this guy has fought him. And actually, depending on what version of the sister is, he trained her, and there's some training going on that there is a connection between him and Deathstroke. So I'm like, that's kind of I'm like 100% was thinking him the whole time, right along with you, man.
Yeah. So it's gonna be interesting to see where it goes, and it's, again, this is one openly. I'm okay if I'm wrong. Yeah. So it's fun speculating, but right now I like that I care enough about this story that I'm trying to find clues and I'm trying to uncover the suspect. Sometimes great writers will deliberately dangle certain clues and certain dangle certain carrots in front of your face for the purpose of leading you right to the killer, so that way you get there. Other times, they're like a bob and a weave, making you think certain things for the purpose of, when you were looking over here, I was actually doing this. And I don't care which this is. I'm enjoying this story immensely because of the fact that I'm invested in uncovering the mystery. And right out of the starting gate, that's where this special succeeded. And I started looking for what was going to happen. Well, when I knew what was going to happen, because I didn't know, I stayed away from previews of this, I guess, well enough that I didn't know he was going to get shot.
Yeah, me neither. That was a neat little surprise, though. I'll be honest with you, I was expecting it. Because whenever you have in the comic book, whenever you have somebody out in the open like that, I always expect a sniper shot. And that's just just general storytelling. Yeah,
and that's something where it's interesting. I guess I didn't expect it to be so absolute, where we've got the kill shot and we've blown up the body.
Yeah, the second part I did not expect. I was expecting the kill shot. And then they would try to take him to the Lazarus pit. The Lazarus pit wouldn't work on him. And that would be like, what the heck's going on here? And that would be the shadow people realizing this doesn't work anymore. And they'd still have the dead body. I was not expecting the blow up. Now, here's one thing on the side, just because me being conspiracy theorist that I am. Mm-hmm. Ra's al Ghul is expecting the sniper shot. Ra's al Ghul hired the actual sniper, and it wasn't Prince Markovia. And the body was, one of his agents slipped the body out away from there. Now, I don't think any of that actually happened. I think 100% that it is, the prince, and I think his body is completely gone. I think the character Ra's al Ghul is gone until they find a way to bring him back. Right. But there is always also that little possibility going on in my head. And I like the fact that because of these characters, because of the way they are, there is that possibility. So my and whether that idea is just a possibility out there to throw people off of the prince or throw people off of this, there's a lot of different ways. I like how this story could have possible different ways to go. And those for me are the fun ones. When you're sitting there, as you said, they got that little carrot they're dangling in front of you, and you're thinking there, but if you're too blinded on that, you're not going to see this little side thing. And I love those little swerves. I love when creative teams come up with that kind of stuff. So this is 100% one of those kind of stories where they're doing some really cool stuff with, you think it's over here, but it's really here, that misdirect.
The piece that I enjoyed about this, too, was, to your point about a misdirect, I think there's a misdirect from this quote-unquote Deathstroke in the sense that this person knows how to fight Bruce, which, again, led me to, well, who would know better how to fight Bruce than somebody Bruce helped train in The Outsiders, and would know how to, be a part of that piece. It was an interesting sort of scenario. Bruce saving his son. He had no other choice. I feel like it was so close. It was 3, 2, 1. Damien would be dead if Bruce hadn't done what he did.
Yes.
And so you see that that's the case. Telling Damien that is, first of all, he doesn't tell him. In that sequence where he's holding him, what was in the background is what he wanted to say, right? The foreground is what actually happened. So he just held him, right? He didn't actually say, because you're my son, damn it.
Right. That's how I read that as well.
Okay.
That Bruce wanted to say that, and he didn't. He just held him. Bruce, come on, man, say it. You want to. You need to. I was like, argh! That was something that I tell you, man, I love that scene. I love that artwork. And again, I want to reach in there and smack both of these two for just how this whole scenario played out. Because this, again, was a great Damien moment. Because it's you see him openly crying, just so upset that, again, the second grandfather died right in front of him.
Yep.
And I loved how he's like, I wanted to tell you what I've been doing, what I've learned, the people I've met, my new friends. And they show Flatline there. I'm like, oh my God, that should have been such a great story. And Bruce is an idiot. He flat out is an idiot. He slips up and I'm like, dude, come on, man,
Well, he has survivor's guilt too, and that's a piece.
I know.
What's interesting with the two of them is If I was there, I could have saved Alfred. That wasn't meant to be an attack on Damien. That was Bruce's own guilt of, I should have been there. I should have saved Alfred. That's really what he meant, and that's where it came from. The problem is, saying it in that moment, it was emotional. It was true. Bruce feels that way, but it's the absolute wrong time to say that, because now Damien's connecting that with blame. And he's right when he's saying, Damien, I didn't mean, I totally feel that. Bruce did not mean that as an attack on Damien. He has his own feelings of, I should have been there. I should have saved Alfred. Alfred would still be here if I had been there. And it's not a reflection on him feeling that his son failed Alfred. It's not a reflection on him feeling his son did anything wrong. It's his own, I did something wrong. I should have accounted for this. I'm Batman. It's my job to have planned for this. And he's taking that blame upon himself in those moments. And I love that you can, so much is said with so little. And that's really great writing. And art. You've got the art, this marriage of writing and art in the delivery of this sequence. There are certain things that you don't need to lay out in narrative balloons. There are certain things that you don't need to say in dialogue. You can leave that dangle and let people go there in their heads, knowing what the story was, knowing what happened, and feeling that out. And it's much more true to real life, right? Yeah. A lot of times we all look back at situations, I know I certainly do, where I said something and I'm like, oh, God, there's 87 other things I wish I'd said, either instead or in addition to clarify, because I completely screwed that up. Completely screwed it up. And that's totally on me. It sets Damien on a path that I'm bringing Deathstroke in, dead or alive, without your help. It's like, we are not doing this together. There is no doorway for us to do anything together right now. This is the current path that I'm on, and this is what I'm going to do, and I get it. Leading us back to Nepal and Talia, her at a place where, because I'm glad they explained this. I'm like, why isn't she using the Lazarus Pit? Not that, we both know the pros and cons of the Lazarus Pit, but she's been shot, she's in pretty bad shape. Why wouldn't she go with the Lazarus Pit? And I like this idea of, I don't trust the Lazarus Pits right now. And case in point with what was going on with her father, you can see why she wouldn't trust them. So you've got this Lazarus technology, and I can't help but wonder if Roz's benevolence with the Lazarus Pit, and I keep jumping between Roz and Raish, so, but I keep wondering if his benevolence was really partly driven by, I need some people to help me figure this doggone thing out, because it's not helping me anymore the way that it used to. So I think that there is a certain part of him that maybe is being truthful, but you can't help but wonder with him, there's always that other layer. How much of that is also him going, and if they figure some cool things out from this, maybe it'll benefit me.
Yeah, that's the thing. I don't know where his mind is. What is the end game for Zalgul? And that's the thing that is always neat about that character, because, again, the level of strategy that he has, he's always thinking one move, 10 moves ahead. And to your point, was he offering it, to, have the world look at the Lazarus Pits and maybe they can figure it out? Or was he offering it knowing he's going to get killed? Knowing that the sniper is going to take the shot, and he's going to die, and whoever took the shot is going to get blamed for not being able to release the Lazarus Pit release the Lazarus technology to the world. And it's, again, I don't know, and I don't know where his head is at on this stuff. And it's kind of a cool thing where there's so many different layers of what his plan was. Was he ever truly planning on releasing it? Did he think he wouldn't live long enough to actually release the information? I don't know. And I'm hoping we get more answers on that. I'm hoping somehow we identify what Roz's original plan was, not including getting shot, if we actually can find that out. But I don't know if we ever will. And that's part of a tragedy, but also part of the coolness of the story. It'll keep you wondering.
Yeah, and that's something that I really enjoyed, was the fact that there were so many things that this This issue opened up and gave me so many ideas. Like, it identified the players. It identified the conflict. It identified multiple conflicts, I should say, spinning out of this. Some valid, some completely invalid. I think part of the piece that you look at with any crime, too, is who benefits. That's the part where I'm like, okay, a big part of me thinks it's because of Leviathan and everything like that. This is Geoforce's way of taking down major forces. You know, like pit these two against each other and they'll destroy each other. If that makes a ton of sense what he's doing. If it's totally him, you start playing in your head who would benefit from this. There's that part of me that like I think I've got my suspect.
Yeah.
I am very, very anxious to see where this is going to go. That Demon's Shadow is an impressive looking group, though, isn't it?
Dude, that's a Murder's Row there. And that's, that is outstanding look of a group. And it's funny, I only know like one name in it. So I'm looking forward to meeting all the others, because some of them look pretty wicked, and some look like, okay, I no idea what you can do, but I don't want to throw down with the giant snake lady.
Yeah, no. The interesting part is Deathstroke is, at the end, speaking of snake ladies and that whole crew, Deathstroke is doing what you said before, where he's analyzing the video and realizing that the one looks familiar, have fought them before. Before he can really go any further, that's when all hell breaks loose, and Death to Deathstroke becomes the conclusion of that particular issue. What an opening chapter, right? It definitely needed to be its own one-shot special, kind of kicking this thing off. But, man, did that get me super excited. You want to do creative team on Batman 122?
Yeah. Our next discussion is on Batman 122, Shadow War Part 2. Too many ninjas. Joshua Williamson is the writer. Howard Porter is the artist. Tomei Mori is colors. Clayton Cowell is letters. Howard Porter, Tomei Mori on covers. Jock Gabriel Delato and Roger Cruz. Victor Olazaba and Luis Guerrero on variant covers. Dave Wheelgo's associate editor. Ben Abernathy, editor. Batman was created by Bob Kane with Bill Finger, and huge apologies to people.
So I'm looking, first of all, the cover's outstanding, but I'm looking at page 2, which has the Death of the Justice League blurb there.
Yeah.
So, this is a real tangent, I'm sorry, but I got to talk about this. So we've got Superman, Wonder Woman, Aquaman, Batman, Jon Stewart, Hawkgirl, we've got Black Canary, we've got Green Arrow, and we've got Black Adam. And I believe only one of them comes back, right?
Yeah.
I'm calling Black Adam. If this is the crew, if this is in fact the team. Because he's got his own series coming.
He's got his own series coming out, yeah.
That's why
if Black Adam's the crew, then I'm calling Black Adam.
Yeah. That doesn't mean anything, because it doesn't mean that the series, in reality, the series could take place at a different time. If that is in fact the team and only one of them's coming back, that's who I'm saying the one coming back is going to be.
I would co-sign on that, with the only possibility. He's got to be. Yeah, because he's got his own series coming out, and
he's on the cover for Dark Crisis too.
Okay, yeah. So it's got to be Black Adam.
Mm-hmm. As long as it's the same.
As long as he's part of this crew. Now,
and as long as it's the same Black Adam.
Right. Because that one cover for Dark Crisis, if you look closely, it's not Bruce. There's a Batman on one of the covers, and it's Jace.
Right.
It's Jace Batman.
Yeah. Well, on the main cover of it, the Justice League is there. This Justice League is there, but they're clearly no longer with us. Like it's an
Shadow.
Honoring the dead more than anything else. I'm excited for this. It's strange, to say I'm excited for the Death of the Justice League, but I'm excited that event is leading to something. So we're opening up this issue, and I think from what I'm seeing there, now here's what's throwing me off a bit. Take a look at the state of that hand, right? That's clutching the ground. So this is the Deathstroke, right? Now that hand looks in pretty bad shape. So I got to admit, this was the part where I'm like, is it really Geoforce or is it not? And I'm starting to question, like, I'm not 100% sold when I take a look for that. You will not be forgotten. I promise you the people responsible must pay. So I'm like, could be Geoforce, could be somebody else. That's where I'm wondering, you know what I'm talking about when you take a look at that hand?
Yeah, and
because he looked pretty healthy, but that doesn't mean anything. You know, it could be he's also putting on a public face in that scenario. You know what I mean? Where, you know, like people are able to disguise any form of abnormalities in the public eye. And we certainly see that happen a lot in DC reading. So I'm going to say that he still remains my top suspect, but that's like one of those where I'm like, okay, he's my top suspect, but this starts to make me question who might look so decayed. Because he clearly looks decayed. The hand looks decayed there.
Right. Yeah, the hand looks kind of messed up. And it was funny, when I was first reading, I was like, is that just shadow? Is that not? And you kind of look into it like, that's something's messed up with that hand. And I'm still leaning towards Geoforce as the prime suspect on it.
Is that dirt, though? You know, is that also the thing where he's putting, like, I guess so maybe decayed's not the right word, because the hand actually is fully formed when you're seeing this. So it's not like, you know, but is this meant to be more like dirt under the nails, that type of thing? You know, like, because he's so clearly got the dirt in his hands. I don't know. I guess that's... I'm trying to talk myself through like how that could still be him, yet we see him looking all healthy.
Yeah. Again, I don't know, and I think, but for me, this scene doesn't sway any of my resolve on him. Just because, you know, later in this issue, we're going to see that giant tunnel I mentioned during the last, when we were talking about Shadow War. And I got issues mixed up in my head. I thought that happened there, but it happens here. But, you know, so I'm 100% still on the fact that he's involved with it. You know, and to be honest, maybe he's involved and maybe that is somebody else. Maybe Deathstroke, he wasn't the Deathstroke. But for me, I think he was, you know, because, again, this is for the people who died. This is vengeance for what Leviathan did.
I like seeing Chase, like, being brought more into the DC universe and being utilized in events like this. It's natural, considering that this is a world-spanning event and that there would be implications to the United States, that Chase would be taking a role in this. And I really like this idea of there being an international espionage arm of our government, or, you know, these groups that are focused on having to be a part of this event. Bruce using this technology, we've seen this technology play out before, and I love this technology. Him being able to replay through events because of cameras and satellites is really cool. And I like that she's like, can you not do that again? Because you're in real time, in the location you're at, seeing this event play out in front of your face. So you are actually standing next to, as the bullet's being played out. I like, though, that Bruce sees some holes in this, going, hey, and I wonder how much of that was deliberate, where I think Talia was meant to take the wound that she did. I think it was meant to incite Talia to battle. I think that was very deliberate. I think it was also meant to cast a little doubt on her. I think this has been brilliantly played out. Like, I think everything that Bruce is doing was expected. Yeah. And I think Bruce's reaction was expected.
Yeah, and how did they get that close to the embassy? Well, when you're the prince of the country, you can, you know, make things happen. When you have the ability to move Earth and, you know, all and whatnot, you have the, you know, the ability to get that close to it. And everything you said about Talia wasn't supposed to not get killed, you know, 100% agree with you. And I love how he's thinking Talia as a suspect, you know. And I'll be honest with you, that was playing out in my head as possibility, you know, along with, you know, was Talia involved with this, and it wasn't, you know, Markovia, you know, but. I like the fact that he did put that doubt there. And they did make that. But again, you think about it, someone who knows Bruce, someone who's been trained by Bruce, would know how to throw off Bruce. And so would know to give these little pieces of the puzzle to them. You know, and also wanting Deathstroke dead, wanting the real Deathstroke dead, what's the best way to do that? You stick the League of Shadows on him. You stick everybody on him. This, again, was a great play to get Deathstroke off the board. And especially considering what Deathstroke did to that family. So, you know what? This is right now cleaning the slate.
I like seeing Prometheus back because that was a character that came out of the Grant Morrison JLA run that I thought was a really great foil to the Justice League. And seeing this character continue to be used now, I'm glad to see this character playing out. This battle was something that I really wanted to see, and this is a great example of nothing beats ninjas, right?
Yeah.
You throw like a whole handful of ninjas at a situation, and that is a fight. And the idea that these guys are, on the surface, able to hold off this situation was really great because these are, obviously, Deathstroke and his son are going to have a certain particular set of skills, shall we say, until a bomb is thrown at the building. That kind of starts to even the playing field, shall we say.
Well, Respawn is an awesome character.
I
absolutely
Respawn.
Love that character. If you didn't read the Robin series, that's where the character is introduced, and just his story and just the general groove of him is awesome. I absolutely love this character, and he also, a little bit of him is shown in Deathstroke issue 7. You kind of get some more of his backstory there. This is a wonderful character that, again, I love seeing these two fight side by side. I love seeing how, again, the team, Deathstroke's people kind of, a couple of them have, an honor code. Others are like, see ya, boss, I'm out of here. Again, when you got killers like this, they're not all going to make the sacrifice for the team. They're not all going to take one for the team. And we kind of see, Prometheus run, But, again, this was just an absolutely wonderful couple pages. And I love how there's just this swarm of ninjas, and it's just so you throw all these bodies at them, knowing most of them are going to die. Most of these ninjas are going to die. They're not going to get to the big bad, the really skilled ones. That's where you have Angel Breaker come in. And that Angel Breaker looks awesome. She is. I want to know more about her. And just, again, another League of Shadows kind of really cool super assassin. And I love the line where he's like, never heard of you. The Demon Shadows doesn't want to be known. I'm like, yeah, you haven't heard of her for a reason. She doesn't want you to know about it. I loved it.
Slayed for his own ego, and it was something I thought was really well done in this, where he's like, I'm going to have to show you something I never wanted to show you, and I certainly don't want to show you. We got to go hide right now.
Yep.
And that's not, like, it's something that's a reality. You have to have those skills when you operate in the world that Deathstroke does. But I love that he's like, I didn't want to, certainly didn't want to do this with you. That was something that really struck me as interesting in that sequence and valid, leading to this great sequence with Ravager and Robin reconnecting.
Yeah.
I love Ravager. You and I have been big fans of Ravager for years. I'm always glad when there's storylines that bring Rose in. And I miss reading Rose monthly as part of a team book, and we've gotten to see a lot of her lately. But she's a character who, anytime you can give us more of Rose Wilson, I am a happy camper.
Oh, big time. And again, another character who was beautifully used before with Robin series, and her connection with Respawn. You knew it was coming just from the lead-ins to this, that she was going to be a part of it. And absolutely a joy here. I'm like, yes. And I loved how she's hanging out in a bar. She's throwing back a couple. She sees what Deathstroke did, and she's like, oh, man, this is just really going to make things worse for us. Thanks, Dad. Appreciate it. And I love how you don't see initially who they're questioning. The bouncer's like, hey, you look a little bit young. Would you like to see my ID? Crack, smash, pow, crack, thump. You see the guy go flying, and she doesn't even bat an eye because she knows who it is. I'm like, this is awesome. Again, the little monster is wonderful.
Batman showing up at the House Al Ghul was awesome.
Yeah.
There's something about Batman and ninjas, knowing his training, where you get an opportunity to see that sequence. He gets inside, gets to Talia, which she knew was going to happen. She knew he was going to make it that far because she just knows him. and admires the skills, but again, kind of questions like, boy, you could be using these skills so much better at my side. That's always going to be, there's a tragedy to their love story, because I want to ultimately see Bruce with Selena, but yet I feel the genuine love and affection between Talia and Bruce. And we've read some of the stories that I love with the two of them together. You know, there's that part where he says to her, I never want to see you hurt. And he means it. There is a genuine love he has for Talia that's unique. And they exchange that kiss, and you can't help but wonder, where is their story going to go with all of this? I love that where this is going in Deathstroke Inc. number 8 is Deathstroke and Respawn. We're going to continue that track. We've got Damian and Ravager now, and Batman and Talia. We've got 3 groups that are basically heading towards the same endgame and trying to, all being manipulated by the current chess master, shall we say, of this event, which you and I are very much on the same page. I totally think it's Geoforce. Yeah. Any part of me that's looking for ways to poke holes in it is just because I'm looking for, is the author swerving us?
Yeah.
And I'm looking for tiny details that may hint at that. I'm not seeing anything that I'm finding that's compelling that is leading me away. But in Joshua Williamson, I trust. I still think all bets are off, but my top suspect remains Geoforce at the end of this. What a great story.
Yeah. Oh, big time. And I'll tell you, with the Batman and Talia's bed, the one thing I really did love is how, again, the knowledge and the respect these two do have for each other. The love, there is a love there. It's a weird love. But everything with Batman is a little bit on the weird side. Everything with Talia is a little bit on the weird side.
Yeah.
They don't have, none of these people are emotionally stable,
Right.
This is, so you're going to get those kind of weird moments. But I do like how she was really angry at him because Damian went after Deathstroke alone. You sent him after that killer alone. And she was really angry. And again, it's that love she does have for her son. And we saw it in the last issue when they were having that friendly sparring back and forth where they had that connection. And the Bruce and Talia, the kiss there, I am wondering what is going to happen here. And that is something that always, because I really do love Bruce and Selena. I don't want that getting messed up. I think the next scene is Bruce is going to stop her saying, hey, we can't do this. This is one of those moments where it flashes. I don't think we're going to get a love story going on between Bruce and Talia. But again, you never completely know with these two. So for me, this was just a wonderful, we talk about how great Shadow War Alpha was as opening. Number 2, again, setting up the teams that are now involved in this. You've got Bat and Talia, you've got, Damian and Ravager, and then you've got Deathstroke, on Deathstroke and Respawn. So we've got a really cool setup going on. Plus, we've got the Puppet Master. Again, this is one part after another. I'm 100% locked into this. Absolutely loving this story, man.
So let's talk about Secret Meetings. It's written by Joshua Williamson, art by Trevor Hairzine, colors by Rain Barredo, letters by Willie Schubert, associate editors Dave Wheelgoes, editors Ben Abernathy. I love these. This is something with, I don't know where Dark Crisis is going. I'm hoping I'm still going to be reading Bruce after Dark Crisis in Batman. I say that being super excited with where Dark Crisis is going. So I'm always very protective of my guy. I want to read Bruce, especially with stories like this, where now you're going to take a story from the past and tell it. There's a hit out on your partner, it's Deathstroke, and there's this really cool story with Commissioner Gordon and Bruce setting up this scenario that Deathstroke is trying to take out Robin. And they talk about, again, that he is this bright, shining beacon out there in Batman's dark world. It's like you're painting a target on him. It is working to Batman's advantage. It's one of those scenarios, though, where, boy, it puts Robin at risk. It really does. And I love the conversation around it because it's genuine. Deathstroke saying, you put the kid out there as bait. I don't think Batman put Robin out there as bait, but yet it sure works that way for Bruce.
Yeah. And that's one of the things I like about with the later costume designs of Robin, where he's not as bright. And it's not a bright yellow cape. It's got a yellow interior with a black exterior, so he could still cover into the shadows. And it's something I like when they did update his costume. But it is a neat moment, and it is a neat declaration here. And this is kind of like the introduction when Batman first went up against Deathstroke. And these little side stories at the end of the book, one of the things I kind of do with them is I usually, when the story is complete, I make sure I go back and I reread the story, and just read the ending story. Just read the backup story, all the parts together. I'll read them as they come out, but again, I go back, it's part of the reread process with these stories, because I find sometimes I do miss stuff on them.
This Deathstroke story is really cool because I love seeing Bruce and Deathstroke fight, especially when Deathstroke is analyzing all of the people that have trained Bruce. He knows fighting. He knows skills. Picking out David Kane, picking out Ducard, Ted Grant, the Master. He's just on and on and on is going through. That whole sequence was really, really awesome. The idea that Deathstroke was hired by clearly the Joker, and that maniacal look. The next issue is supposed to be Deathstroke versus the Joker. You take a look at that look on Deathstroke's face. Did the Joker do something to Deathstroke?
Yeah. Well, the Joker money that he paid up front was tainted with Joker gas.
Yeah.
Was Joker toxin. So as he's sitting there, it's slowly affecting. Now it's hitting him. So my guess is the next scene is Bruce pulls out the antidote, shoots him with the antidote. Deathstroke's natural healing factor kicks in.
Sure.
And takes that, and he's back to normal. And Deathstroke's like, well, I've got to kill the Joker now because he just tried to poison me. He's a dead man, And I think that's going to be kind of a neat, again, Deathstroke versus the Joker. That'll be a cool story because Bruce is going to have to save the Joker from Deathstroke.
Yeah, it's a great story. I would miss these co-features if they're not part of these books moving forward. I grew up with these, and boy, I got to say, when I was younger, I didn't appreciate them as much as I do now. And I guess when I was younger, they were just there, so you didn't think about what it would be like when they were gone. And then when they went away, I was enjoying the storytelling I was getting so much that I wasn't thinking about them. Then you get them back like this, and they're really adding to, this is a perfect companion piece to the main story, which involves Deathstroke. I love when they do stuff like this. So are they important to you?
Yeah, actually. It is important to me, but I do read them a little differently than the main book. I read them, but I'm not really digesting them and diving heavy as I do with the main book. I do my heavy dive when the story's done and I come back, and then I really read them and I really go into it. Now again, this one, I am really looking forward to the Deathstroke versus Joker, where Batman has to save the Joker from Deathstroke. So this one kind of really did. I probably did a deeper dive on this one than I normally do on the backup stories.
Did you look at all of the preview in the back for Flashpoint Beyond?
Oh, yes.
Now, you weren't linking this to Batman Beyond, were you?
Well, it was funny. At first, I thought it was. When I saw because I saw some title somewhere out there, I thought it was Batman Beyond. I'm like, oh, okay, you're doing Flashpoint Batman. And then when I read this, I was like, oh, wait, that's not Batman Beyond. That's okay. So initially, I did have it a little goofy. But again, this is something I absolutely love when they do these little, when they do the Time Lord, the Time Masters, and the bulletin board, and all this stuff written down. And the one thing I caught was Fall of Justice League, Rise of what? Rise of what? Come on, man! Jeff Johns, writer. Oh my God, yes.
Justice Society?
Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
Actually, Jeff Johns, writer, Eduardo Riso, artist, Trish Mulhill is colorist, Rob Lay, letterers, Marquet Draper, associate editor, Andrew Marino, editor, and Katie Kubert, senior editor. Yeah. You have full creative team on this, but again, this is one that
and it really is just a few preview pages. But boy, they start teasing you in because this is also a sequel to Doomsday Clock.
Yes. Because again, we've got we got the invisible gun, and I'm like, man, this is awesome. I love, again, the fact that that story wasn't just a throwaway. That story was real. It actually happened. And we got Bruce here. So I'm like, Bruce is looking at Fall of Justice League. Does that mean this takes place before Justice League 75? Does that mean Bruce lived? Does that mean that's not Bruce Wayne?
Bruce. Is that Bruce or his father?
Well, look at the symbol on the chest. That's not Thomas Wayne. But again, to your point, which Batman is that? True.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, dude, this is awesome. I'm like, and this one completely threw me off guard. I had no idea this is what that was. Because as I said, when I initially saw Flashpoint Beyond, I assumed it was Flashpoint involving Batman Beyond. So how did Flashpoint, and all that kind of stuff affect that? I wasn't thinking Batman Beyond. I mean, I wasn't thinking, Thomas Wayne. Or even Bruce, or I don't know. It was one of those things where like, oh my God, this is awesome.
Because it says Flashpoint Batman searches for answers in a world that shouldn't exist.
Right.
So I guess I was taking that to be Thomas, but yet I see, I don't know. Because that could be Bruce talking to them first, and then it could hand over to Thomas. I'm very curious to see where this goes. But I'm excited for that. I mean, and we're getting that this month. April's a big month.
Yes, this is going to be a fun month, man.
Yeah, and this is one that totally hasn't been on my radar, and I'm very excited about it.
Now I can get out of here.
Sean and Jim, how you guys doing? You've been doing great work with your last podcast on Crime-A-Lot 3000, but I came here to talk about the round robin voting from D.C. I see a lot of fans are disillusioned with it because they think DC just should release all the books at one time instead of the vote because most people feel that the vote is rigged. Me personally, that may be the case, but it is interesting to have to be able to vote on some things. Now, me personally, I would like to see all those books come out because the books I see on the list is just so awesome. I mean, everything, the Cyborg book, the Dark Side and Captain Carey book. Who don't want to read that? Just the thoughts and see what you guys think about it, but I hope they keep doing it. At least we can get the books out. And I think DC should just put those books on the digital app. The digital app should be a device where you can just get books that's on the app and you can't buy them physically at all. Let's talk about the Young Justice return. Oh, my goodness. I just got a text on my phone that said, Young Justice return. I'm thinking it's just one episode. By goodness, it was 3 episodes. So I sat there, took my podcast headphones out and started watching all of them. What a cartoon. What dynamics. The way everyone has a storyline within 30 minutes of a cartoon. Great work on that cartoon. I went to see Morbius this week. The action was kind of fast for me, but the storyline was good. So go check it out. It was a good movie. I know the critics is panning like they always do. Probably didn't even go see the movie, but still panning it. But go check it out. It was an amazing movie. Just I said it was too fast. I guess I'm getting too old. I couldn't follow the action, but I still do not feel like wasting my money. Pretty much read much of all the Morbius appearances, so I followed him in everything. Let's talk about some new titles for the week. I went to the comic store today, picked up a House Project Superpowers from Dynamite. You guys need to pick that book up. It's the first issue of a 5-issue miniseries. I picked up a couple books from a new company called Advent. One of the books is called Fist of the Dragon, Black Star Line, War Guard, and a book called Sunshine. Great stuff. I actually picked up a book from IDW today called Rocketeer, the first issue. And if you all been following Radiant Black, well, they have a new character in that universe. Actually, they have 2 characters in that universe, one called Rogue Sun and another character called Radiant Red, which is a 5-issue miniseries. You guys go pick these up. And if you're a fan of the the distinguished competition, which is Marvel Comics, everyone needs to be reading the new Black Panther book, the new She-Hulk book, which is amazing. The new Miss Marvel book is pretty good. And I have bad news. They canceled my Spider-Woman for the 19,000th time. It seemed like I can't catch a break. I just hope this lady can one day have another run, like 50 issues like she did with her first run. But we can't all have a long run in these new days of comics. You guys keep on raging, keep on doing the great work, and I'll keep on listening.
So there's a lot there to unpack, actually. I'm a big fan of, I want to go to the Morbius movie first, just because I also saw it. And it's interesting. He's right. Critics kind of seem to start trashing movies. And sometimes I'll read reviews where I'm like, did you even see the same movie I am? My take on Morbius was this. I enjoyed it. And it's not, if you were asking me, is it your favorite Marvel movie or your favorite movie in the Spider-Verse? I don't put it up on the same level of the most recent Spider-Mans with Tom Holland or the Venom movies. But Morbius is a character I never thought they'd put on big screen. I admittedly I've read Morbius. I like Morbius. I've read Morbius a lot more in crossovers than I have actually his own book. And I've always liked the character, but I have not been like a diehard devotee. I will say for me, it was a very enjoyable film. Like, I'm really glad I saw it. They did a nice job of tying it into the Spider-Verse, the Spider-Film-verse. So you feel like it's part of this larger universe, very similar to what we're seeing going on with the MCU. You're seeing them develop a Sony universe that's over there, and it's really well done. This was not, I'm not going to say it was my favorite out of the batch. It wasn't. But I enjoyed it. I mean, it wasn't like one of those things where I walked out and go, geez, that was a waste of my money. Just the opposite. It was an enjoyable ride. He's right. It's a very fast-moving film, but it's worth seeing. I mean, it's Morbius the Living Vampire. Very cool. I mean, when did you ever think a character like that would be on the screen? What I would say, shouting it out, is if you like movies with unique characters and you want to see both DC and Marvel trying more of these experimental movies with some of their lesser-known properties, go see it and support it and see if it's your movie. And if you like it and enjoy it, shout out that you enjoyed it. That way it gets more people going to it and more of these movies will get made. Sometimes it's okay to go to the movie theater and see a good movie. You know, I mean, I'm not saying great. It was a good movie. And that's kind of where I was at with it. I was glad I saw it. It's not going to be one I watch 50 times. I've got so many of those on that list, and I can tell you I will see it again because I typically do when like movies like this that I've enjoyed are released digitally. But I know this will be one that I will probably see one or two more times, and then, you know, and that second time that I'm talking about, like seeing it again, might be a while down the road where I'm doing like a run through of the Marvel movies. You know, and I'm like, oh, I haven't watched Morbius in a while. Let me throw that one on. But it's not one of those that, like, I'm going to watch over and over again. If my review of it's making any sense. It's a good movie. And so anybody curious about it, I think it's very much worth seeing. You're not going to be blown away, but you're also not going to be disappointed, I don't think.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I did not see it, I'll be honest with you. So I have nothing to say other than neat.
The round robin situation, I don't know that it's rigged or not. I like what they're doing because they've turned it into a game. And I like when comic companies are experimental. And what I mean by experimental, they try new things, sometimes to varying degrees of success, to try and generate excitement around the product. And I think the round robin is a really good attempt to do that. I totally agree with him when my biggest problem was they had Hawkman against Wildcat. Like, how do you choose? You know, it's like choosing between which one's your favorite kid. I mean, yeah. I love those characters. So I was in a no-lose with Hawk won, but which I'm glad. But truthfully, I would have been just as happy if Wildcat won. Both of those series look great, and I agree with them. Like, these are all things I'd love to read. They are release day and date on the app, which I like. I think there's an interesting problem in comics now, because here's what you want to support. You want to still support comic shops, and you want to support comic shops with unique product and have those things available. You do need to support the DC app. I think there's ways of providing unique content to all of those solutions, or unique covers or unique things that draw people to those locations. And I think now as I don't want to say as we're heading out of COVID, because looks like COVID's just not going to go away. COVID's going to be the new flu. And I don't want to, I'm generalizing right now just because I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about COVID. But my point in even bringing it up at all was, I think it's been hard on any type of store, especially comic shops and small businesses like that, to survive COVID and what it's done to keeping your customers. First of all, I think some customers were lost during that, where they've just kind of moved on because of COVID. And I think now getting your customer base that's coming back to be able to be spending or buying, in the fact that now we've got gas prices through the roof and stuff like that. It's a tough time for anybody running a small business. So I'm very protective of comic shops in an era where I admit I am much more like a digital paper hybrid. I love going into comic shops. I've started doing it again, especially the local ones near here where I'm making regular visits, because I like browsing and I like picking up swag and I like picking up collected editions and things like that. I actually started picking up, we've got the Fan Expo that's coming up at the end of this month in Cleveland. I started picking up some of the books, like single issues of books, so I have another copy that I can get signed, if I'm making sense.
Yep.
There's some comic creators that are going to be there that, Tony Harris, for example, the artist on Starman. I'd love to have him sign a comic for me. So I went and grabbed a copy of Starman, to take over there and have Tony Harris sign, because I'd like to frame it and put it in my workout room, because I've got this wall now in my workout room that's devoted to signed comics of people that I've met that I really like. So it was fun to go into the comic shop and being able to sort through and find those things. And it was just nice. So there's something about, you feel this feeling of coming home when you walk into a comic shop that was there. We're in an interesting time where I love that this is making digital fun, and I think they're doing the right thing with this round robin as far as generating some excitement. I don't know if it's rigged or not, and I hope not, because to me half the fun is following it, rooting for your favorites. I typically like what they produce, like this Robin series that won last time. Did you read all of that?
Yeah.
I've been reading that as it's been coming out. I really enjoy it, and I'm really glad that it was produced.
And between the two of us, I'm more of the conspiracy theorist than you are. But here's the thing with the fan-created, those fan contests and stuff like that, they can't rig those. If you're an actual business and you announce that will be the outcome is determined by the fans, you have to go with that. Mm-hmm. Now, like if it's something that you're saying internally, well, it won't be. If you're not, as long as it's not bringing in the outside people who will have to spend, who have to spend money to get the outcome, you can't rig that. That again, it's the whole thing where it's based on who is paying money for it. Like with wrestling, when they do the big wheel or they randomly pull something, that's all determined. And that's all fake, and they'll either do multiple wheel spins or however they're doing it or whatnot. But when you're leaving it up to the fans, the people who are actually spending money for this, you have to let it actually be a true selection based on that. It's the whole voting thing that, like with radio contests where the 15th caller calls in, that has to actually be the 15th caller. They can't really do that because radio got busted doing that many years ago, and they got major fines and whatnot and all that. People were fired and shut down, and there was a lot of thing happened because radio was doing that where they'd announce a number, and it wasn't actually that number. It was either a friend of the DJ or somebody they had already selected to win it. And because of that, they passed laws about that kind of stuff. So I 100% think that the voting is the voting, and it's kind of like with American Idol. I think that's actually, they're actually truly counting those voting as well. It's even though people say, oh, no, it's not. Like, no, they have to. They can't tweak those numbers, but they can do little things to save somebody or not save somebody, or it's that kind of thing.
Yeah, which they actually put in as like the judges' saves and those type of things,
yeah.
Which I get. And those things I don't mind because they're inherent in your expectations of the programming. This is, I think it's fun. And I think I like experiments. It's funny. I kind of link it to when we talk about the canceled Spider-Woman book, right? I'm glad Marvel I actually really have been enjoying the Spider-Woman book. I'm glad Marvel put out that book. Very similar to how I like when certain DC books are put out that like, okay, this one's probably going to be short-lived, but man, am I glad that they're trying it out. See if people will attach to it. Because there's surprises that often happen with that. And, you know, where sometimes it will get a much larger readership than they're expecting, and it sticks around for a while. And I'm glad that they still give those books a shot. And there seems to be a lot more focus in comic companies at least wrapping up storylines. Because there was a whole era where, like, this book just ended. Sometimes mid-arc. And you didn't get a conclusion. And if there's one thing that irritates me as a fan, it's that.
Yeah.
So I'm sure regret that Spider-Woman's canceled, but I'm glad and hope that they just wrap everything up clean. Ray, he shouts out some great books, and some of them are books that I haven't read. He was mentioning that the new publisher, Advent, I think he said it was, but Fist of the Dragon, Black Star Line, War Guard, Project Superpowers from Dynamite, I haven't read yet. I'm a big reader of Radiant Black. That's Kyle Higgins. I believe it's Kyle Higgins. If I'm wrong, I apologize. I'm doing this off the top of my head. But Radiant Black is a series that I really, really enjoy. And that spinning off into miniseries, More Please, is terrific. And I'm glad. And he shouts at some great Marvel titles. I'm reading a ton of comics these days across companies. I'm just finding myself really enjoying comic reading. And it's a great era for it. That kind of stuff's exciting. Are you finding that, like, I know you and I are both kind of struggling with this, time issues, but are you finding that you're just doing a lot more reading are you surprised at all by the amount of reading that you're doing now? Because you expressed actually on just this episode the amount of rereading that you did in preparation for this episode, and really you did it for fun. So, I mean, is that normal for you to do that amount of reading?
Well, I'm trying to get back to that was my normal reading. And I used to do, with some of the readings, I would say, okay, no DC day. So I would look at my non-DC stuff and like, okay, what do I have, listed as downloaded that I haven't read yet? Oh, let me jump on that now. And that's one of the ways I kind of, and again, as I said, I read before work and then after work, the prep before the day and then the wind down at the end of the day kind of deal. For a while, I've been big time on the Joe Hill stuff, a lot of the different and some of the DC horror stuff, but then non-DC stuff. Let me see what's currently on the slate. Jennifer Blood is currently on the slate, non-DC. Philadelphia, is another one that I'm really digging. Then where else we got? Oh, and I just picked up Warren Ellis, Ocean. Haven't started reading it yet, but I picked it up because of Warren Ellis, and it was one of those books that kind of, recommended for you. So I'm like, let me give it a try. I haven't started reading that one yet. My next non-DC day, it's probably going to be that one. But that's kind of how I do it, where, I read a little before work, a little bit after work. Sometimes on the weekends, Dad's downstairs watching, his judge shows, which I really don't like. So I'll go upstairs and I'll either read a book or that's when I'll jump on the computer and watch some of the superhero stories, from, either from, HBO Max or from the various other, whatnot.
I'm reading right now Walt Disney's Mickey Mouse Volume 1, Race to Death Valley. This is like the old 1930s newspaper strips. And they're in these collected volumes. There's at least 14 of them, and this is the first one. Floyd Gottfredson was the writer-artist working with Walt Disney at the time. It's one of those where Walt Disney's pen name was on there, but this is who was doing it behind the scenes for the company. I'm sure getting approval, but I'm really enjoying these, and I read them in arcs. Like, and when I say arcs, you know how newspaper strips have like a ongoing storyline that goes like many weeks, and then it kind of shifts to a new storyline. This is one of those, and I will then jump to other things. I'm also reading the new X-Men stories that are going on. they've been collecting them in these chronological collections like Reign of X and things like that, where it's not one X-Men title, it's multiple X-Men titles that like are in chronological release order. So that way you can follow along with the storyline. I'm liking approaching the X-Men that way because of the fact that I do this show. And sometimes it's like, okay, I have time to read X-Men. Other times I don't. And I know, okay, I finished this trade, so I can jump on to the next trade if I'm making sense. It's like keeping me not up to date, but because I'm behind. But I'm really enjoying the stuff that they're doing with X-Men right now. So that's how I'm keeping up with that. And so that I've been reading those at the moment and staying caught up with that line. It's really well done. It's like I need another thing to read, but I always dip my toe back into the X-Men world. I admit that I used to read everything and anything X-Men, and I can't keep up with it now. But another book that I want to shout out is X-Men Legends. And have you heard of this book?
No, I haven't. And I'll be honest, I'm going to keep turning off my ears because I'm so scared that I will get pulled back into the X universe.
So here, this one you might dig, and you might want to listen to this one because, like, imagine there's a single X-Men book that, like, every arc is done by a classic writer from a certain era in that era.
Ooh,
so it's stuff.
Sound awesome.
It's stuff we grew up with, you know. So Fabian Nicieza, Chris Claremont, people like that are writing arcs, but they're set during the era where they were writing the series. And sometimes it's a sequel to a story that they did in the past or a continuation of a direction that they did in the past. But it's, like 4 issues or so of this book that's really put around letting these legendary creators tackle their characters. So I am really digging that one. That one I am current on. And it's a great series, and it's good for somebody like you're talking about. I can't keep up with everything right now, but I loved these books. And it's a real nostalgia fest. They're well-produced stories, too, because, these are this is top-tier talent that is putting together these stories. Great writing, great art. It's X-Men Legends, and it's a singleton book, but you don't have to, be following current continuity to enjoy this. So it's a recommendation for somebody if you're like, I'm kind of jonesing for some X-Men, but I can't follow all of that right now. This one, you don't need to follow anything. It doesn't tie into anything else other than what you may have read in the past.
It just so we understand each other, if you get me back into reading X-Men, I will smack you.
Remember,
I'll hop in my car, drive across town, and smack you. And I'll hear him knock on the door, like, hey, Jim, what are you here for? Bam! Smack in the head. Then I'll just walk away.
I am reading the Spider-Man Beyond storyline, too, which is going on right now. I'm behind on that, but I'm getting caught up. And that one I'm getting caught up pretty rapidly. As far as, I'm reading, 2 and 3 issues at a time, but it's another great storyline that's going on in Marvel. I am a Marvel fan, so for people out there listening, that when you do a show like this and you're obviously prioritizing DC and want to be staying current, I do tend to prioritize a lot more of my DC reading, but I'm reading stuff from Image. I'm reading some of my favorite indie. I'm a big fan of the work of Terry Moore, for example. I stay caught up on as well as I can in all of Terry Moore's stuff. That tends to be a stockpile too. But I'm currently doing that. I'm doing a reread right now of Thieves and Kings, which is a favorite indie series of mine that I'm just kind of going back through and doing a reread of. And it's, I don't know, there's so much great comic product out there right now. Whilst trying to keep up with my shows.
Yeah.
But it's a fun time.
Great molecules! They're programming the computers for a chain reaction to blow up that atomic pile.
I would like to remind everyone about our show voicemail line. It's 1-440-388-4434 or drnorge on Skype. RagingBullets@gmail.com is our email address. Whatever way you prefer to contact us, we love having you part of our show. RagingBullets.com is our show website. All the new episodes are posted there. They then go to our Twitter and Facebook fan page. We're also proud to be part of an amazing Facebook group community, and I just want to thank everyone that posts over there. It's a safe, fun place for dialogue about news and happenings in and out of DC Comics. It's a lot of times where I find out first what kind of things are on the slate. And it's very helpful for me because I don't want to miss anything. So I appreciate everyone that takes the time to post there and really to start dialogue about some of the things that are upcoming. That's how the Aquaman series that's coming up on HBO Max that I was talking about earlier. I found out that first from our Facebook group. So thank you to everybody that takes the time to post things and share them over there. The About Us section of our show website is where you can find out how to connect with us on social media, but also gaming platforms. And I'm going to be putting my Xbox gamer tag up there as well because I've been playing a lot on Xbox lately. So that way, if somebody connects that way, you can connect with me on Xbox as well. But I really appreciate anybody who connects with us in any media that you enjoy posting in. We are sponsored, as always, by DCB Service and InStockTrades.com. Mr. Segulin, what's going on over at DCBService.com?
Well, we have the Dark Crisis number 1, 40% off, only $3.59. We have Dark Crisis Young Justice, also 40% off, only $2.39. And we have Black Adam number 1, 40% off, only $2.39. Thank you, DCDS.
Over at InStockTrades.com, as I mentioned, there's the new releases, and two of my favorites are up there in 2022 editions. Annotated Sandman Hardcover Volume 1, $49.99, regularly 42% off, only $28.99. Death, the Deluxe Edition Hardcover 2022 edition, $29.99, regularly 50% off, only $14.99. If you are looking for any form of collect editions, trade paperbacks, hardcovers, the place to go is InStockTrades.com. It's how I keep up to date on what kind of things I might be missing. I also want to shout out one more time the fact that we've got that Superheroes, Orphans and Origins, 125 Years in Comics exhibit. April 1st to August 22nd, 2022. Foundlingmuseum.org.uk is where you're going to find more details about that organization and the event. And it's one that really captivated me. And I appreciate them reaching out and letting me know that this event was in existence. I want to find a way to get there to see this. The nice part is there's a nice window to be able to potentially see this event. I think it's great that comic history is being honored in this fashion. And this is a growing trend, and it's only because organizations like this are receiving support from people going to see these events and enjoy them. So please, if you're in the area or able to be in the area, go and check out this event and shout it out to anyone that you know who might be heading to that area so this event receives some support. Our next episode, Jim, you and I are going to be back, and we're going to be talking about Earth Prime and Wonder Woman Historia. We're going to check in with issue number 2. And the following week is going to be Justice League number 75. So we are getting there. We're on the road to Dark Crisis. We will see everyone next week.
Bye.
All right, you guys. Are you ready to sing your song?
I'd say we are. Yeah, let's sing it now.
Okay, this should be fun. Now get ready for your cue. Okay, Sean?
Okay.
Okay, Jim? Jim? Jim!
Okay. Raging Bullets time is here. We talk about what we hold dear. Comic books and TV shows. Superheroes and their clothes. Justice League and so much more. I just love Green Lantern Corps. We talk about the books we've read with spoilers straight ahead.
Okay, fellas, get ready. That was very good, Sean.
Naturally.
Jim, you're a little flat there, so be careful. Jim? Jim? Jim!
Okay. Justice League and so much more. I still love Green Lantern Corps. DC Comics are what we know. The Raging Bullet Show. DC Comics are what we know. The Raging Bullet Show.
Excellent job, guys.
Let's sing it again. Yeah, let's sing it again.
No, that's enough. Let's not push it.
Push it? What is that? Yeah, what are you talking about?
No, I didn't mean anything by that.
I think
Jim, how long do you want the song to go?
Look, it's on